beep, record.
Okay.
Second reading is something by a fellow that I believe, sincerely, truly believe, is probably the original cowboy poet, D.J. O'Malley, the late D.J. O'Malley. This is from 1934, the year I was born, and I think he actually wrote it before that. But that's the date of publication. And it's called "When the Work's All Done This Fall," and I'm doing this because of the cowboy event going on in Winnsboro today. A subtitle of "When the Work's All Done This Fall" is "After the Roundup." A group of jolly cowboys discussing plans at ease. Says one, "I'll tell you something, boys, if you will listen, please. I am an old cowpuncher, and here I'm dressed in rags. I used to be a tough one, and I went on great big jags. But I've got a home, boys, a good one, you all know, although I have not seen it since long, long ago. I'm going back to Texas once more to see them all. Going to see my mother when the work's all done this fall. When I left my home, boys, my mother for me cried. Begged me not to go, boys, for me she would have died. My mother's heart is breaking, breaking for me, that's all. And with God's help, I will see her when the work's all done this fall." That very night this cowboy went out to stand his guard. The night was dark, cloudy, and storming very hard. The cattle, they got frightened. They rushed in a wild stampede. The cowboy tried to head them, riding at full speed. While riding in the darkness, loud did he shout, trying his best to head them and turn the herd about. His saddle horse stumbled, and on him did fall. He won't see his mother when the work's all done this fall. His body was so mangled they all thought him dead. Picked him up gently and they laid him on a bed. He opened wide his blue eyes and looking all around he motioned to his comrades to sit near him on the ground. "Boys, send mother my wages, the wages I have earned. I'm afraid, boys, my last steer I have already turned. I'm going to a new range, and I hear my master call. And I'll not see my mother when the work's all done this fall. Fred, you take my saddle. George, you take my bed. Joe, you take my pistol after I'm dead. And think of me kindly when you look upon them all, for I'll not see my mother when the work's all done this fall." Poor Charlie was buried at sunrise, no tombstone at his head, just a little board, and this is what it said. "Charlie died at daybreak, died from a fall, and he'll not see his mother when the work's all done this fall." The end of that of D.J. O'Malley's great work, and I'll read a paragraph now from Edward Hirsch's How to Read a Poem. The philosopher Ted Cohen suggests that one of the main points of metaphor is the achievement of intimacy. Cohen argues that in metaphor and the cultivation of intimacy, that the maker and the appreciator of a metaphor are brought into deeper relationship with one another. That's because the speaker issues a concealed invitation through metaphor, which the listener makes a special effort to accept and interpret. Such a transaction constitutes the acknowledgement of a community. This notion perfectly describes how the poet enlists the reader's intellectual and emotional involvement, and how the reader actively participates in making meaning in poetry. Through this dynamic and creative exchange, the poem ultimately engages us in something deeper than intellect and emotion. And through this ongoing process, the reader becomes more deeply initiated into the sacred mysteries of poetry. Let me say that the inner child is a perfect example of this. That's all. That's
You would just press the red button again. Does that make it stop?
Yeah.